My name is Scott McCloud. I'm a cartoonist and author in the United States, and I'm known for making comics and graphic novels, especially The Invisible Art or Understanding Comics, and my recent graphic novel, The Sculptor. My story is about a young artist, and when writing a young artist, what do? You go back into your own life and find parts of yourself that experience that same thing. So he has some of me in him. But I think maybe more importantly is the woman he falls in love with has a lot more of my wife in her. He's very different than me in a lot of important ways, but she's a lot like my wife, and I found it easier to write her if her voice came out through the character. Well, it took 5 years altogether to do these nearly 500 pages. But the first 2 years was spent only on writing and doing a rough version. I write and draw together, all at once, word balloons and panels all together. And that took me a year to do the first draft, and then 1 more year to redo it and redo it and redo it again. I did 4 versions. Then I drew it, and it took me 3 years to do the actual finished art. Well, I created the whole comic in Photoshop on something called a Cintiq tablet. This is one of those big tablets that you have where you draw directly on the screen. And this means that even though it was all digital, even though there are no original pages, no pen, no ink, no brush, still it's a hand-drawn line, and it still has the warmth of that hand-drawn line, and that's something I wanted it to have. But I needed to make a lot of changes because the first line I draw is never the right line. And when you're drawing on ink, on paper, the first line has to be the right line. That's just not the case with me. And so I found being able to revise and revise was really useful. So digital was the way to go for me. I'm not able to say how this book stands in relationship to my career as a whole. This is one of those things that the artist is not allowed to decide, whether it's a success or a failure. It's not my department. But I know that it's big, it's ambitious, but we have to let people decide, how it measures up to other things of its sort. And they'll decide now in this time, but they'll also decide in 5 and 20 years. And, history can be harsh to things that people liked at the time. So I guess we'll see with mine. I always make sure when I'm done with a project to do some other project that's nothing like it, that's completely different. My next project will be nonfiction again, and it's going to be about visual communication and education. How we learn through seeing, from everything from information graphics to data visualization to presentation philosophies, things like PowerPoint and other software, and even things like facial expressions and body language. How do we learn with our eyes? I think that there are some common principles that are worth investigating and talking about.